Implausible Nature now has dice. That's right, you can get these awesome D6s made by our partner, Baron of Dice. These custom dice have the Implausible Nature logo on the 6 side and also come with square corners, which means they will roll more evenly than rounded corner dice. Head on over to baronofdice.com and use discount code IN40K to get a discount on your order and support us at the same time. Check out his full collection of dice for all your gaming needs with the link down in the description. Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we are talking about Sword Brethren. That's right. Probably the premier melee unit, certainly in the lore for Black Templars. And today we're going to tell you why Sword Brethren are the premier melee unit for us on the tabletop as well. So they got a pretty huge glow up with 10th edition. We really got just about everything we could have asked for with this unit. So let's dive right in. Let's take a look at their data sheet and see what all they got. So the big thing first, right out of the gate, that you'll notice is they got 3 wounds. This was something that was often talked about in 9th edition. Why don't they have 3 wounds? They're on 40 millimeter bases. People comparing them to Blade Guard vets, etc. Well, GW listened, and they have 3 wounds now, which is fantastic. It gives them a little bit of extra durability. They don't have an invul save, but that's okay because realistically, these guys aren't supposed to be a durable, tanky unit. They are, a cruise missile that you point at your enemy and delete units with. Yes, they are that good. So let's take a look at their data sheet. They still have the option to take either chainswords or now just generic power weapons. It used to be like there was an axe and a maul and a sword options and stuff like that. But GW's combined all that profile into one, which is great. I like it because axes and mauls are cool looking, and now we can use them without having bad rules for them. So they still get that power weapon option, 4 attacks a piece with those. They still get a Thunderhammer option, which is great. Thunderhammers were nerfed a little bit. They lost that damage 3. They do have devastating wounds, which is nice. However, unfortunately, they did lose the double lightning claw guy. So that's no longer something on their datasheet. Instead, what they gained is a sergeant model, who is basically the Castellan guy that you can build out of the box. You can build him with a combi weapon, which is pretty cool. And he can also get a master-crafted power weapon. So that's pretty nice as well, being able to get a damage 2 weapon base in the squad that hits on 2s, no less, which is pretty sweet. So the other really big change for them is their ability, Vow-Sworn Bladesman, which is now, obviously, there's no detriment, there's no passions to the vows anymore. So we don't have to worry about, a negative, impact. These guys used to ignore it. Now, instead, at the start of the fight phase, you can select one of the following effects to apply to melee weapons equipped by models in this unit until the end of the phase. You can either add 1 to the attacks characteristics of those weapons or add 1 to the damage characteristics of those weapons. So this is a massive change and a huge damage buff for them. You can either choose to go, be damage 2 with all those power weapons into 2 wound models like Space Marines or vehicles or, more durable stuff like that. Or if you're up against a bunch of 1 wound guys, those 1 wound, the 1 damage weapons are going to be just fine, at getting an extra attack each, which is pretty sweet. So, overall, really huge glow up on the datasheet. Really could not have asked for pretty much anything else for these guys. They did get a slight points nerf, recently with the balance data sheet and the MFM points update. They used to come in squads of 11. Now they're back to squads of 10, which honestly, the 11 didn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand why they did that. To begin with, it must have been a mistake, obviously. However, the 5-man squad went from 150 to 165, and the 10-man squad stayed at 330. So they are now 33 points a model instead of 30. Honestly, they were really cheap at 30 points a model. They're still perfectly excellent at 33 points a model. So, Bob, what are your thoughts on the buffs we got for this data sheet?
This makes them probably as you alluded to, the premier unit in our list. They're the Swiss Army knife that allows us to deal with anything on the battlefield, depending on what your opponent takes. Uh, the problem is with other units that we select, they have a toolkit for what you want them to face, whether it be assault terminators. You're most likely taking thunderhammers due to the devastating wounds, so they're best into like elite uh, uh, units or vehicles, and they're kind of tooled into that. You know, there's other ones in there, but you could do whatever you need with them if you're facing a horde army. That ability allows them to be very effective against horde. You don't have to retool them in a list. You can just take them as is, build, you take your mastercrafted power sword and your thunderhammer and just power weapons, and no opponent is going to be able to invalidate your unit on the board, and they're going to trade up into most things, except for maybe like custodies. But they're going to be great in anything. There's a lot of different ways that you can take them on the board. A lot of different things. There's ways that I prefer, but uh, yeah, they're a great unit,
Yeah.
especially for
And I should
our.
also note they kept all their pistol options too, so you can still get one plasma pistol per 5 guys and two pyre pistols per 5 guys as well. And since Wargear is free in 10th edition, there's no reason not to take all that. It just gives them even more, output. That extra plasma pistol shot, is nice into, an elite target. The pyre pistols are great into hordes. So, like you said, they really just are able to tackle virtually any unit on the board, and they're really good. Now, um, we as a faction, we lost the ability to combat squad, so we can no longer take a 10-man unit and combat squad them and put the weapons where we want, um, which is a minor detriment to them. But honestly, they're perfectly fine with a thunderhammer and power swords and stuff like that. And honestly, like the mastercrafted power sword is hitting on twos is really nice from the sergeant, who is ironically weirdly named the Sword Brother Castellan, which is so confusing because he aside from one wound, he literally has the same stat line as the actual Castellan character too, which I find amusing. He has the same number of attacks with his mastercrafted power sword hitting on twos, so it's just a little weird that they named him that. But he's basically just a sergeant, is really what he is. And I think the the math is just about even on what the lightning claws could put out versus the mastercrafted power sword. Um, so not a huge detriment there. The lightning claws are fun. The models are sick. I'm just going to use the lightning claw model as the Castellan sword bro sergeant. So no loss for me on the looks. So yeah, so that's the data sheet. Let's take a look at now. Obviously, somehow people are still comparing these guys to Blade Guard. I don't know how or why. I like, and I really don't want to spend a lot of time on this because the answer is crystal clear. Like, it's not even a competition. Sword bros are more deadly. Period. End of story. Here's some math for you so that you can see it. They are flat out more deadly. They are a scalpel. They are the instrument of death. Blade Guard are more durable. Blade Guard are, we've been saying this forever, and I guess we have to keep saying it. Blade Guard are better as like a take and hold unit. Yeah, Blade Guard are still deadly. They're still good, but their durability lends them more to. I'm going to sit on this objective and make you not want to come attack it and take it from me because I'm deadly in melee and I'm hard to kill, right? Versus Sword Brethren are, I'm going to point this unit at your unit and I'm going to get rid of it because that's how good they are. So, so yeah. So hopefully the comparisons can finally end because have very clearly defined roles now, and frankly, we're tired of talking about it.
Yeah. Think of them as the incubi of the Black Templar.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is a completely heretical reference, but you know, um,
Everyone has faced incubi in ninth edition, so like
yeah, yeah.
you know what they do.
You know what they're capable of. So yeah. So let's talk about some of the really awesome combos that we can get into with this. Obviously, our strat support is pretty good. We can give these guys extra pips of strength and AP depending on what bow we're in, those kind of things. And character support is excellent for this unit as well, just like our Primaris Crusader squads, where we talked about anything that can join an Intercessor squad can join these guys. You can watch that video here. And, you know, these guys are the same way. So anybody that can join an Intercessor squad can join them, which is a huge number of characters. So, Bob, why don't you tell us about what characters you like the best to join with our Primaris Sword Brethren?
So my favorite one right off the bat, and I've talked about it in the stream a little bit, is the Primaris Company Champion. That's my favorite one with them. So I prefer to take the Sword Brethren in 5-man squads in impulsors, but you could also do strategic reserves with them and get them off the side of the board, and that would be just as effective. But the reason why I take them is with the Primaris Company Champion is, first of all, if you did not know, the Sword Brethren's special rule applies to the character.
Yeah.
So you are going to generate either one extra attack for that character or one extra damage. So if
Which is
the
another reason why they're better than Blade Guard, because one, they have better character support, and two, they buff that character a lot more than the Blade Guard buff their supporting characters.
Yep. So I mean that's awesome right there. But you put that Primaris Company Champion on there, you have a precision uh, source in your unit. He is great against uh, attacking opposing characters, and with that buff, you're going to kill a character for sure, unless they get some really lucky and vulnerable saves. But what you're really taking him for is having that +1 advance and +1 charge, plus the ability to get a heroic intervention for free on that squad. So not only are you going to be able to get that unit quicker across the board if he's walking, or more reliable charges because we don't have rerolls to charge anymore, at least army wide. It's going to get more reliable into combat, which is what you need because you don't want to fail a charge on this unit because that's going to be your first target your opponent has. You want to
Yep.
at least kill whatever you're charging, and then hopefully you can get into cover, at least protected after it dies. But if you don't make that charge, then they're dead, and then you
Or
just
consolidated
wasted.
to something else. Yeah.
Yep. So that is a combo that I enjoy. But you also have the ability to do heroic interventions with them for free. That's a 2 CP strat that you get for free. So you can place them in strategic areas of the board and kind of do some aerial denial for your opponent, so that don't don't get into combat on their turn, which is what they don't want you to do. So um, obviously that's pretty strong. So that's my favorite one. But a close second would probably be the Judiciar with that fight first ability. He's also a great character killer with his own devastating wounds. So fights first on a unit like this is going to be pretty key. But I don't think it's quite as important because fights first lends more to a defensive unit that you want to kind of bait someone coming into you. I wouldn't necessarily say that you want to bait with your sword brethren. If I mean, you can. They
You want to be
trade well.
charging with them.
Yeah, you want to be charging. So uh, that's why I kind of go for the champion. But another one that's going to be out there is the Marshal. The Marshal is really good, so you can get that free stratagem multiple times throughout the game. So you can, if you need that extra AP or whatever you need to do with that particular unit strategically, you can get that free stratagem. So that's kind of incredible for him. Plus, when he goes Super Saiyan, you can give him some extra buffs, because his extra 3 attacks on top of his potentially another attack, or even adding an extra damage to him is
Extra damage, yeah.
going to be really effective for him.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously you have, if you have Helbricht, who we talked about in our Primaris Crusader Squad video. He does all the same things, but you kind of want to have him at least on a unit that's a little bit larger. So if you're going to put him in there, a 10 man would be the way to go. So you can obviously bigger force more multipliers.
He
So,
could work in a 5 man and an impulsor, I think. It's a little bit more expensive. You don't get the bonuses that the company champ has. Um, but I do generally agree. I think if I'm going to put Helbert with Sword Brethren, I probably want him with a 10 man, just to give him that extra, make sure that he sticks around long enough to potentially hit into 2 units. But yeah, Helbert is absolutely insane with Sword Bros, giving him that +1 damage. He can do his sweep attack profile, which is now going to be 12 attacks at strength 6 and damage 2. Like, that's just nuts. Like, you move that, throw that into an oath target, and don't forget, I guess it'll actually be strength 7, because Helberg's strength buff applies to himself. So it'll be strength 7, or he can have a strike attack, 6 attacks, at strength 9, and damage 4. Both of them are at AP 3. So really hilarious, what Helbricht, the amount of damage that Helbricht can do. And then on top of that, his mortal wounds ability. So
yep,
he absolutely slaps with Sword Brethren. So I really like him. Another character that I like a lot, with Sword Brethren. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you want like just another damage character output type thing, is the Emperor's Champion. He has precision 2 on his strikes, and again, he gets those high damage attacks in, or with a sweep, he gets 10 attacks. I think you can make those damage too. So a lot of really good options to take with these guys, to really combo them up. Now, um, as of right now, Helbricht cannot be joined by a Castellan or a lieutenant, or any other character for that matter, because he lacks the chapter master keyword. That being said, we are expecting GW to FAQ that in the end of July FAQ. So depending on when you watch this, it may already be fact. But we are
yeah,
expecting that to happen, because I think it's clearly just an oversight. But pairing a 10 man with Helbricht and a Castellan or an Apothecary or something like that is going to be a pretty gross combo, that you can do as well. So give those lethal hits. Don't forget Helbricht gives them the critical hits on 5 up, which really makes them gross. You can get them, exploding hits, or lethal hits, and lots of different things that you can do with um, that ability. So, but I do agree that I think Helbert is probably going to be best with a 10 man, just because you're going to get more mileage out of his abilities buffing the squad, and he'll live longer with the squad being, you know, larger, so that he's got more ablative wounds, as it were, to do his thing.
yep. If you want to make a really dangerous Death Star unit, this is going to be one of those, like Helbricht with the 10 man squad. And hopefully, when they fac it, then you can throw a Castellan in there and stick him in a Land Raider. Get that charge after disembarking, and that's going to hold the center for you, uh, assuming it doesn't die. But build an army correctly, you can have multiple threats, and maybe it won't be the number one thing that they shoot. But yeah, that's, I mean, 600 points to basically kill anything that your opponent has. It's going to
Pretty
be
much.
a pretty dangerous combination
Yep.
there.
Yep. Absolutely. So how are we gonna be putting these guys into our lists, Bob? We've talked about a couple of different options. What options do you like the best as far as list building is concerned?
There's a couple that I have seen so far that have been in tournament lists in 10th edition. Uh, so far, I've seen uncharactered, which is strange to me considering the buffs that they can get. But some of the higher tournament placing tournament lists have had 5-man units just with the standard uh, setup with the Thunderhammer and the Mastercrafted Sword Brethren Castellan and the Power swords. Just 5 man, just walking, and then take a couple units and just walk. Hopefully, just run up the board, get to an objective, kill, move
Strat
on.
reserves.
Yep, strat reserves. That would be another way of doing it. Get them, keep them cheap. Now, I like doing the same thing, sort of. I use the impulsor with a character and use that to give me a little bit of a beta strike. So they're not going to be my first alpha, knock them out. That also gives me some additional shooting through the impulsor. So I combo that with the ability to jump out and then kill what I want when I need it. It also gives me protection against all of that indirect, because after we've seen this balance data slate, what they did is they upped the price of points for indirect units. And I think it was far too little for what you're going to see. And we're still seeing a lot of indirect on the boards, especially the high performing lists. So you still have to have a way to protect your units. So desolation units are not going to be as prevalent, but Imperial Guard are still taking all their stuff. They lost maybe a unit. Um, you're going to see tons of different things, like your Death Guard are going to still see their prey, play crawlers and uh, different things like that. You get the point. So your units are going to be needed to be protected. If they're not bigger units, if they're more fragile, that type of thing. You don't want someone to kill your sword brother. I mean, they're going to be a linchpin of your list. They need to kill something. They need to move on. They have to kill at least one thing in your opponent's list, and it has to be something worthwhile.
Right.
So I like the impulsor because those can absorb all of that indirect fire. So that you're not taking a billion indirect shots like a whirlwind or Imperial Guard stuff. So that's one way of doing it. But alternatively, we talked about that Land Raider Crusader combo. You could do that. That's something that I haven't seen any tournament list played, but you could theoretically do that. And that would be kind of a dangerous. You can also do it in a Storm Raven if you would like to do it that, comboing that potentially with a Brutalis, because that is another Death Star combo that we can do.
And that would definitely be a Death Star.
It's a very fast. For sure, you're going to get a turn 2 charge on anything in the board, no matter what you got, so provided it doesn't explode and you all die. But that's something to think about as well. But I think the
Fortunately,
only
exploding now is uh, or die the test you take is not nearly as bad anymore. It's no longer dead models; it's mortal wounds. So that's a lot better, especially when you have 3 wound models. Getting out of a destroyed vehicle. Um, so something to note if you do decide to stuff them and a Brutalis into a a Storm Raven, you are going to have to start that thing in hover mode on the board. You will not be able to reserve it because
yeah.
um, it's too many points. It's going to be more than your. more than
Yeah.
your allotted points for that. So yeah, so you're going to be having to start that sucker on the board, which does put it at more risk. It's not quite as durable as the Land Raider, but it is much faster. It does not have the assault ramp, so there's some give and take. It has better guns. Um, so I'm interested to see if people try that out. I think there's merits to running them both ways, running, impulsors, full of sword bros and a character, and then, making a Death Star unit in a Land Raider type of thing as well. Theoretically, you could walk a 10-man squad as
Yep.
well, maybe with Grimaldus to give them that extra durability of the Feel No Pain. Um, you do lose out on some of the additional things that like other support characters provide, like Castellan's, Helbricht, that kind of stuff. It is a thing you can do. I don't know if it's the best thing that you can do. I think I would spend the points on a Land Raider to get them across the board and get them where they're going and protect them from that, indirect fire as well, especially with a larger squad. Blast weapons are a thing, and you don't want blast weapons targeting these guys getting a free extra 2 shots on you. So,
Yep. I th-
especially stuff like whirlwinds.
yeah. I think there is potentially play. The last thing that I think would possibly be a unit choice for them. Now, I haven't had any experience with it. I know someone who has been playing them, so uh, I know at least has some viability on it. Is taking multiple 10-man units, throwing apothecary with them, so you're spreading the threat across your list and daring your opponent either shoot them or your other dangerous units. Typically, you're going to be primary Crusader squads with those, and it's going to be more of a foot based black tide thing.
Mhm. I
But
could see that
obviously,
working. Because now you have, it's like, which one do I shoot? Because they're both equally deadly.
mhm,
I think you could also do threat saturation with smaller units too, even if you're walking them 3 to 4, 5-man squads. You can strat reserve a couple of them if you need to. Um, and then between that and like Crusader squads and your other threats, your opponent might make mistakes with target priority, and some of those are going to make it to their target, which is kind of the point, right? So, um, because the cool thing about them is they don't really need character support; they're pretty gross on their own. Uh, Adding in character support just makes them all that much better,
yep.
which is really awesome. So,
I think that the sweet spot right now, at least early on in our index days, is 1 to 2 units. For sure, one. If you're not taking one, then like you might
what
as
are you
well
doing?
play something else.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's be honest. These guys are so good. Why would you play Black Templars and not take at least a unit of them? I get it early on if you don't have the models that you can build into it, but you know,
Go out and buy them.
yeah, just not from Amazon. They charge $130 for a box.
That's because it's like a third party selling
Yeah,
them
but
or
still,
something. I think GW is still out of stock of them too, so they might be hard to find right now. Just keep looking on other online retailers, or check with your local game stores. You might, if you can find them, pick them up because they, like we said, they are the best melee unit. Not only for Black Templars, might be in all of Space Marines. Uh, you know, they're that good. Like Sanguinary Guard are pretty good, but they're really stupidly expensive. And I don't think Space Wolves have anything that even comes close.
Death Death Company is pretty good, but
Yeah.
so yeah, we talked basically about the list building portion of these. The 1 to 2 units of them. I prefer having two MSU units on them, but I've seen a lot of successful with the 110-man unit with character split. But it's interesting to note that the top 2 lists out of this past week at the time of this posting, both players had 2 small units. So neither of them had impulsors, and I don't think they're absolutely necessary. I just prefer that. But they almost certainly strategic reserve them in onto the board and got them to where they needed to be. But two small units, they trade up. And one of the players was 6-2. So, I mean, that's a pretty good result on a really large tournament. So, and that was one of the things he had. So he didn't have too many units either. So it's not like he had like 18 units and that was just, threat saturation. He was rocking like 12, 13 units. So they still survived. So they have a lot of play. They're the unit that gives you the ability to dictate the terms of the game. Um, just simply because they can attack, they can do anything. They can go after vehicles, they can go after monsters, they can go after infantry. Whatever you need them to do, they can do it. So I love them.
And they're a little bit more durable than regular Space Marines too. They
Yeah.
got that extra wound now, so not quite as durable as like something with an invulnerable save, but honestly, they're still really cheap for what they do. 5 guys, 165 points, and they'll trade up into almost anything. So yeah, so that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, definitely let us know what you think down in the comments. Where have you been having success with Sword Bros? What do you think? Is there any combos or anything that we missed that you wanted to bring to our attention, or success you've been having with them? Um, don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscribe, click the bell notification so you can get notified on all of our uh, y- upcoming videos. Check us out on Discord. We have a really active community of folks who are talking tactics and lore and everything else every day. Really active community, a great group of people there. Also, check us out on Patreon. You can see we've got our Patreon exclusive dice now available. These are only available for purchase by our patrons. So you'll need a special code to have them not cost a very special number. uh, so, um, so yeah, check that out. We've had quite a few, new patrons join us recently. So thank you guys all so
Yep.
much who've recently joined, as well as our existing patrons. We really couldn't do this without you guys. We really greatly appreciate all the support that you guys give us.
So, and I also want to give a shout out to one of our sword brethren that we have, Root. So thank you for supporting us.
So check out all the great, awesome Patreon benefits that we have. There's a link to both that and our Discord in the description below. And as always, keep on crusading.